we're using this as a platform to just let the women here in our organization, their voices be heard on the issue, because this is what we've read today is disturbing. It's like Nivedita and Nivriti has been saying that, it's in a way triggering, because, we've at certain moments in our lives, we've faced something like this. And that's why I think we need to just look at the issue and also figure out what can be done. Because, from the Vishaka guidelines onwards to POSH to Me Too movement, where we always say that, women are getting empowered. And then we have stories like this where there is very clear evidence of what happened. You go back and you look at yourselves and you say, are we really empowered? I mean, are our voices being heard? If normal people, their voices, are not heard, then what about some of the other people? Like, I'm talking about the wrestlers who are, who've done so much for this country. And if their voices are not being heard, then what about ordinary people who are just working every day, going to work, coming back, maybe a little girl going to school, coming back? I don't know. I think that's the reason why we just got all of us together, right? And just to have a conversation around this. So yes, just coming back to this Indian Express report, there are statements, Shweta. Wrestler 1, if I could just go to that. Wrestler 1, the allegations. I was out for dinner in a hotel restaurant. The accused, which is Brij Bhushan Singh, called me to his dinner table, placed his hand on my breast, groped me, and then slid his hand down to my stomach repeatedly for 3 to 4 times. In the WFI office, he started touching me inappropriately on my palm, knee, thighs, shoulders without my consent. He put his hand on my breast and slid it down my stomach on the pretext of checking my breathing. Is that
let me begin by
absolutely disgusting or not? Yes.
Absolutely. Let me begin by saying my problem with this is two-pronged. Number one, when the wrestlers' protest was happening, it was at its full force. There wasn't enough attention given to it. As media people, we are culpable of not giving it the due attention it needed. We talked about the new parliament inauguration. We talked about Karnataka election in full force. But unfortunately, Olympic winning wrestlers, and we're not talking about common women. Meha, you brought an important point. You said, what about common women? And these are no common women. These are women who've broken the shackles around them. They've really come up from small towns and villages in this country. They have worked their way up. They have struggled. They have proved their merit. They have the support, the eyes and the ears of people. If these women could not get justice, they had to call off their protest. I wonder what happens to common women, people who do not have access to power, people who do not have the eyes and ears of the common masses. So that is problem number one. The absence of a recourse for these women who already hold a lot of merit by the way of the body of work and by the laurels that they've brought to the country. Number one. Number two, you have a person who is bagged in this case, the accused is bagged by the ruling dispensation, Brij Bhushan Sharan Singh, who has 2 FIRs on him, on his name. Number one is by all these women wrestlers who are saying that they were touched, and you read out an excerpt from one of the wrestlers, and the others are equally damning, and I'm hoping we'll read these allegations out because they tell you the extent to which the accused went to molest these women. So you have a man who has obvious political clout, who has 2 FIRs. One is a general FIR, which is leveled by all these female wrestlers. Other is an POSCO FIR. Under POSCO FIRs, which is Prevention of Sexual Offences Against Children, the accused was bound to be arrested. He should have later gotten bail, but he was never arrested, which goes on to suggest that there was enough pressure either built on the police or there was enough political patronage that he has enjoyed till date, by the way of which he has averted our legal justice system. What I'm finally a little relieved about is the FIR, which is being rightly reported now by one single newspapers. I'm hoping that the details will come out very quickly, and we'll be able to get a hold of that FIR, which details what witnesses are saying, what wrestlers are saying, the more than 100 people who've been interviewed. There are corroborative evidences. Up till now, Delhi police has repeatedly maintained we don't have enough evidence, so we cannot prosecute this man. But there is evidence now, and he's liable to be prosecuted. So I'm hoping, as we set the ball rolling for this discussion, that there is going to be some action, and this man who's been at the center of a big, huge controversy, has not taken any moral, reasonable standing and resigned from the Wrestling Federation of India, still continues to be at the helm of power. He will be taken off immediately by the ruling government. That is number one. And number two, he should be prosecuted. And we understand under the legal recourse system that unless someone is found guilty, they are innocent. But these are serious charges, and he should at least be prosecuted for these charges. So I'm hoping that will happen very soon.
The thing that also stands out for me is the fight by these wrestlers, Geeta. Not many women can do this. And I feel like we've got to really touch upon that as well. That, these wrestlers did it, and against somebody who had the political clout, he has the power, he's been 6-time member of parliament. But women a lot of times do not want to come out and talk about sexual harassment because of similar reasons where, either they're not believed or they're given excuses. Even in this case, one of the wrestlers was told, but you know what, he's like a father figure, so what if he's just put his arm around you? Can he not do that? Does your father not do that with you? And then for you to be able to make sense of all of that and say, okay, am I just creating something out of nothing? So this is extremely complicated, and I hope there is justice here, because this will have a larger impact on some of the other sports women in this country. Whether they'd want to come out and talk about sexual harassment that they've faced, just women in general, would they want to come out and talk about it?
So, whenever we in our work areas, whenever we faced any, as a senior person, if I've ever faced any complaint or anybody's walked up, I think the first thing you've done is taken what they've said, against a person as that person is guilty. Then you start your investigation, and then you figure out if that person is guilty or not, because you have a committee. That wasn't done here. I mean, when you read out what one girl has written, what he has done to her, I mean, I am just so wild right now, because the fact that it takes so much for any girl, any age, to come out and say, this is what she has gone through. Because all of us are women. I don't know about most here, but I can speak for myself. Even I, who have worked and have not come from that background where, different the same. The first thing you think is, did I encourage that person? Did I say something? Did I do something? That's the first thing you tend to sort of self-rate yourself. And then you start looking and saying no. So it takes a lot for every woman at every class or social whatever to come out and say this has happened to her.